I'm so honored today to have my guest on The Hybrid Soul. I agree with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. She is one of the greatest voices of all time. She's a legend. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Ann Nesby. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Happy to be here with you, Kelly.
Yes. So, first of all, congratulations on this awesome project anniversary.
Thank you.
I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you
Um,
so much.
they say they have this saying, on great albums like this, there were no skips. It was a party. No skips, no skips. I want to talk about that and I want to discover you more. Um, Putting this project anniversary together, you worked with some really, really dope people. Like I knew who you worked with, but each song I listened to, I had to go back to the credits. I want to talk about first working with RL and B
Yes,
Flat, RL
absolutely.
of Next,
Mhm.
and B Flat, who was an artist of his own. How did that situation come together to put this project?
Uh, RL and B flat came about. I was working on, uh, in fact, I was working on the song Lonely, which is almost one of the last songs on the project.
Right.
And I was working with a young man, Darius Hill, out of Birmingham, and he brought B flat on to collab on the project as well.
Right.
And I was in the studio with B flat, and he also produces for RL from Next. And RL heard me talking, and B flat told me, "Yeah, I got Miss Ann Nesby in the studio. I'm working on her. I'm producing a project on her." And RL was like, "Ann Nesby, man, that's my auntie."
Yes. Yeah.
And it was about the idea, the fact that RL and the group Next
Yeah.
were my vocal students in Minneapolis growing up as teenagers, even before they became the group Next.
Wow.
Them award-winning Next, I should say.
Yeah.
And they would rehearse in my home like teenagers. Of course, my husband and I were always the home that kind of corralled and kind of looked over the teenagers in the neighborhood. We had boys and we didn't want them everywhere. So we would allow their friends to come to us
Hmm.
and make sure that everything was good for them, even with football and basketball or whatever. And RL and Next, they would come and rehearse in my home, and I vocal coach them as a group. So
Wow.
RL was like, "That's my auntie. Man, I literally grew up at their house. Her
Right.
and Uncle Tim is what he calls my husband, who is also my manager."
Yes.
And he said, "Man, I got to do something. I got to do something on this project." He said, "Auntie, I got a song for you right now, right now." And he called us that night. He said, "Auntie, I got a song already. I got a song." And that song was the first song on this project, My Man.
And I love that song.
And thank you. And it was so awesome because he said as well, Auntie, I remember how you and Uncle Tim would be in the house and you would be cooking. We would be over there eating with y'all and hanging out. And they literally, my children would be there listening at them rehearse and
Wow.
eating their dinner as they were coming home from school. And he started talking about that. He said, "And I just love the way that you and Uncle Tim interact." He said, "And I wanted to write a song that kind of talked about how you all were." And we laid that song down, collabed along with B flat, and went right in the studio, recorded it the next night. And RL called to see how that was going. And we were finished recording it. And he said, "Okay, Auntie, I'm calling because I got another song. I got another song that goes along with that." He said, "As a matter of fact, we should really, really do this." He said, and make it into something like, and call it like anniversary. And do, I
Wow.
said, "Listen, I am enjoying what you're doing." I said, and I really felt blessed because it was like, um, one of the students coming back and giving to the teacher.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always open to learning from young people because they have a new spirit to share with you. And if we're not open to learn, I don't feel like we can grow.
Yeah.
So I'm always connecting and networking with young people, giving them an opportunity to work and network. We hire on young people. In fact, that is the reason why my husband and I, Mr. Tim Lee, developed the label we did. It's Time Child Records because we wanted to be a Black representation out there, allowing young people to see and dream and be a part of what we're doing. When we were growing up, we didn't have platforms where people would say, "Come
Mhm.
on in and go with us and see what it's like," and understanding the music business and knowing that there's more to, even if you're in love with music and you're not a singer, that there are different avenues that you can work to
Absolutely.
be a part of the industry. And with RL coming back, it was just a blessing to my heart. And we just continued to write. And then he said, Auntie, you still be so fly. He
Yeah.
said, got this song I wrote called Still. Like you still be having on your lashes and your heels. And those songs start coming together, just remembering the past and being there. And I'm so happy that he could remember us representing in the neighborhood. So that
Yeah.
is definitely how RL came back around to
I
work with
love it.
me on this project.
I love it. I wanna talk about more of the songs on Anniversary, but I wanted to ask you, growing up and when you first started singing, who were some of your musical influences?
My very first musical influences had to be my mother and my father.
Mhm.
They both sang, and of course, both my grandmothers sang. Um, my grandmother would be one of the church psalmists,
Mhm.
and she would be in her seat, and she would never go up to the microphone, but the pastor would always call
Uh-huh.
on her to sing before he would preach. And I actually did a song with Donald Lawrence that was the very same song. And I talk about this all the time because it is such a life journey for me.
Yeah.
Um, I did a song with Donald Lawrence later on, a gospel legend, Donald Lawrence,
Yes.
is who I did some of my first works with professionally. And I recorded a song for the James Cleveland Workshop of America called um, If I Can't Say a Word, I Just Wave My Hand. And it recalled so much of my journey because that was one of the songs that my grandmother would stand up from her seat, a short in stature, and put her hand on her hip, and she would just rear back. And they said, "Come on to the mic." She said, "No." And she would just rear back and say, "If I can't say a word, I just wave my hand."
Mm.
And the church would just go up and she would just continue on. And then when I did the song with Donald Lawrence, I realized in that journey that the music, that message continues to stay the same,
Yeah.
but the music changes because it was a total turnaround in that, just like with the evolution of gospel that I did with Sounds of Blackness, um, it was a slow song. It was like, if I can't say a word, can I just wave my hand? God, it's been good. I would explain it if I could.
Mm.
God's been just that good. Same lyrics, but
Yeah.
the music changed. So that's what we call the evolution of gospel. So it blessed me on my journey in that being able to do this kind of thing, something that my grandmother inspired me to do. as a young child watching from the pews. And then I started singing in church, playing piano and organ, directing the choir from there. My mother and father had quartet groups in the home, and they were kind of the younger of the pack. So our home was the music home. My mother's group would rehearse one day, and my father's group would rehearse another day with all the instruments at our house. So I was just there, a spectator. But then I was able to work with Reuben Lightfoot of Chicago, Illinois, with his group. I lived about 25 miles from Chicago, born and raised in Joliet, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And I did work with Reuben Lightfoot. And then from there, James Cleveland Gospel Music Workshop of America,
Wow.
where I sang and led songs. James Cleveland was one of my mentors, as my parents were big fans of James Cleveland. And one of my mother's favorites was Aretha Franklin and
Mm.
Mahalia Jackson and Shirley Caesar. So those were songs that I heard my mother play. And then my father was a fan of C.L. Franklin, as my father is a pastor
Mm-hmm.
and who's alive, pastoring the same church. God called him for 53 years ago, still pastoring at 91.
Wow.
He was a fan of C.L. Franklin, who was Aretha Franklin's father.
Yeah.
And hearing Aretha play and sing on his first recorded album, my dad said, "Come here and listen at this. She plays and sings for her dad." And I started playing and singing with my dad as he would go and travel. So those were my early on inspirations. So James Cleveland, and then having the opportunity to come full circle and be a part of his workshop, he kind of took me in as a mentor as well. Albertina Walker, a part of the workshop and Chicago area, took me in and kind of mentored me. And when she wasn't feeling well, she would call me in and she said, "Okay, my baby is going to come in and sing my part right here for me." As I was a part of the Chicago chapter, Allegra chapter of the James Cleveland Workshop. And then from there, um, I did. I started working with Donald Lawrence because Donald Lawrence was also a theatrical director, and I did his first show. I did his first off Broadway show,
Mm-hmm.
a gospel cabaret called Sing Hallelujah,
Yeah.
and going from there, I went to Sounds
Mm.
of Blackness, and had an opportunity to do theater there as well. Um, in that Sounds of Blackness is also a theatrical company and a group that sang the music of a people. So all those legendary singers that had inspired me, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, so many great singers, um, and I was just inspired because Sounds of Blackness always paid homage,
Mm.
like to Langston Hughes and so many greats, Duke Ellington, and sang the music of a people. So I was so inspired by so many greats, Stevie Wonder, of course, Luther Vandross, who gave me one of the highlights of my life. In that, you know how they say you have to pay your dues and come
Yeah.
up. It was really a blessing for us releasing Optimistic as one of our first singles right straight out the box.
Yeah.
And we were doing Arsenio Hall show, and it was our album release day. Went back after Arsenio's taping and went to A&M to have our CD release. And Luther's camp called Jimmy Tarum and Terry Lewis and said, "We want that group to go out on tour, on this Power of Love tour,
Wow.
and be a part." So it was like God had blessed us to and be with the best right out of the box.
Yeah.
And so it was a blessing to be able to learn from the best, Luther Vandross, who we always loved and
Yeah.
cherished because of his professionalism. I learned so much and inspired by him so much. One of the highlights of my life. I had never met Aretha Franklin. And while we were out on tour, Luther would come over to the dressing room and we would talk and laugh,
Wow.
and just have a ball. And he said, who are some of the artists that inspired you that you've never met? And I was like, I said, well, you topped everything. But one of my favorite, Aretha Franklin, he said, really? I said, yes. He said, oh, we're great friends. I can make that happen. He said, when we get to Detroit, he said, I'm going to make sure that happens. But God blessed it and willed it so that, as I said, the highlight of my life, Sounds of Blackness, Luther Vandross. That is when Patti LaBelle and Lisa Fisher shared a Grammy Award at the Grammy Awards, the first Grammy with Sounds of Blackness. Luther Vandross called me down to the front of the auditorium during the rehearsal. And he said, have you met Aretha yet? I was like, no. He said, well, come down here. And when I got down there, Luther Vandross introduced me to Aretha Franklin.
Wow.
We received a Grammy. We sang background for Aretha and Michael McDonald and Luther Vandross. One of the highlights of my life. Aretha Franklin was one of my greatest mentors, and then being there with Luther, who was one of my greatest. It was a blessing and an honor. It just brought me joy. And then to be able to continue on with Sounds of Blackness and be inspired by that music, and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, that brought me into their lives, seeing them work as artists, then producers, and then owners of their own label, have an opportunity to write for their staff, Flight Time staff. As a writer, I had the opportunity not only to meet and know Patti and Gladys, but to have an opportunity as a staff writer to write for both women while writing with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So those were
Amazing.
my inspirations
Yeah.
that blessed my life, and God allowed me to have full circle with.
Wow. That's definitely, I ask people, what's been your goosebump moment? I think that's your one of your goosebump moments. When you talk of Sounds of Blackness, the song Optimistic, I want to say thank you,
Thank you.
because that song gets me through
Oh, thank you so
many
much.
times. It's such a timeless song. When you
Yeah.
all recorded that song, what was it like putting it together and hearing the final version before the world heard it?
Hearing Optimistic while we were recording, it was something special
Yeah.
because it felt inspiring. Even the music before we even knew the lyric, the music was already uplifting, Jam and Lewis. Um, and then when we started singing those verses, um, you know, you realize that people are going through issues, and that song starts out, when in the midst of sorrow, you can't see up when looking down.
Yeah.
And then that second verse, you hear the voice of reason telling you this can't not be done. I mean, voices that you trust telling you that you can't make it. Um, Hold on to your dream, and keep climbing higher, pushing forward. It felt encouraging to me, because at the time I was going through uh, a divorce and a single mother, raising children, and that song "Optimistic" ministered to me
Mm-hmm.
as a woman of color, going through raising my children in a society with boys at the time, but being there and hearing that it was an opportunity to share and to speak to um, a mass, and not just one generation of people, but to encourage the hearts of people. And when we started interviewing, I started saying that this song is a feel good song. It's a song that's true and it's from the heart. And I always said that whatever is from the heart reaches the heart. If it blesses you and you share it, you realize that God intended for our gift to be a blessing to others. So in being able to share that gift and that message was a blessing in itself. And being obedient to God and being able to inspire and encourage and uplift, it's always a welcoming feeling for you. So, and then hearing young people, a whole different generations come back even today and talk about how the song inspired and uplifted because it was uplifting and inspiring me while I was singing it.
So amazing. So amazing. What has been the fun part of your job over the years?
I think the fun part of my job over the years is being able to meet and share and connect with good people
Mhm.
and to create friends. And sometimes you may not even see them again for years, but that same spirit is there. And to be able to network with people, I think that is what has given me the opportunity to have such longevity because I've been able to meet and network and befriend so many beautiful people on this journey, being able to encourage and inspire and to pray with young people. In fact, my husband and I were just talking about, I have a big house following over in Europe and here in the States. Um, Being in the house in house music and having young people to at one show the stage became an altar.
Yeah.
We were singing house music and then I was singing Can't Stop Praising His Name. And then after the show and after singing Optimistic, um, I went to my dressing room and then there were young people lined up. They wanted to come in and have me pray for them. And I was like, God, you are everywhere.
Mhm.
And it was a blessing for me because I knew that you have to obey God in order to be blessed to bless other
Mm.
people. And there would be young people coming back. And one of the young men that stands out in my heart all the time is he looked me in my eyes. He said, I love that because it kept me. I was attempting to commit suicide and that song came on. He said, and I remembered, I remembered that moment of hearing that song when in the midst of sorrow, keep pushing on and you'll be inspired. And he said, and I promised my mother that I was going to give my life to the Lord before she died. He said, and while you were singing that song tonight, he said, I remembered what I said to my mother. He said, and I want you to pray for me because I want to do exactly what I promised. So those kind of testimonies always inspire the artist just as much as you inspire the audience.
Mhm.
And it was something my mother always said. He said, if you're going to choose this life, she said, you have to be faithful to it and use the gift that God gave you. And you can't be selective about who you give your all to. She said, if you're singing for two, sing like you're singing for 2,000. And that always stayed with me. And to be able to connect and share songs like I Believe, having that understanding. And, sometimes you can have the audacity to get tired of singing songs, but you forget that those songs inspire and encourage other people um, spiritually and mentally. And so God spoke to my heart in that moment when I was feeling that way. He said, I took you all over the world to sing optimistic, I believe. He said, that's one of the main things that you have to do in order to see God and make it to heaven is believe. He said, that job is important. He said, and this is your ministry. And I was like, okay, okay, God, all right. So the fun thing, able to minister to children who weren't even born
Yeah.
when we recorded this music, and to be able to have them to come back and hear how they received that music. It goes right back to me hearing my grandmother sing that music. So it gives me joy all over just to be able to step on the stage and share the gift that God gave me with others.
I love that. Was it always your path to sing? Did you know that at a young age?
I knew that at a very young age that I wanted to sing because I came from a very musical church.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, a very musical family. Um, and I think watching my mother sing in church and walk the aisles with the microphone, and my dad singing, and he thought he could sing like Sam Cooke. And my mother was, of course, a Mahalia Jackson fan, and she had that prowess like Mahalia Jackson, and watching them and being at church and hearing the choir, because I grew up in a church where it was nothing for um, Albertina or the Staples singers to come to one of our musicals at the church, like every fourth Saturday, or they would come to the musical, one or the other would come and
Right.
be the guest there, because we were a community of musical people. And I would just be, I should have been upstairs in church, but I was downstairs in the basement waiting for them to walk in the door so I
Right.
could look up at them and see them. It allowed me to dream. And that's, I think, what instilled that in me, to be able to allow young people to see what was going on, to see what this music thing was. And so I think it's important, very important, that being this way is what is the blessing in it all.
Yeah, I love that. Well,
Uh-huh.
this project anniversary, I want to get into it. There were some songs, like I said, I knew who you were working with, but then I went and listened to it and I had to look at the songs like, wow, I love this. This project for me, when I listen to it, it's everything. If I was in a relationship and it's someone special, I would be like, this is the gift. Here, listen to this. This is
Thank
how I
you.
feel all about you.
Thank
Um,
you.
what was the difference putting Anniversary together versus your first solo album, I'm Here For You?
The difference between doing Anniversary and my very first project, I'm Here For You, is that I was very green at the time, coming into um, say R&B music
Mhm.
for myself. And Jam and Lewis were, you know, the perfectionist and the greats they were in producing and putting together. It was my first opportunity to write on I'm Here For You with my brother, Big Jim Wright,
No,
who
R.I.P.
collaborated with me on that particular project. And Terry and Jimmy saying, okay, you need to spread your wings and you need to write something. In fact, a true story about that. While we were writing, we wrote my first song for the project was going to be um, Right Kind of Lover, which is the very first song that God blessed me to be able to write for Patti LaBelle, in that she was coming in to be produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Wow.
And we had written the song, and Terry came and he said, "It's coming." He said, "And I think this song that you just wrote would be a great song for her." He said, "I know you're getting ready to start your project." He said, "But this song would be a great song for her. And it would allow you to be able to be around that artist that where you're going, and it will allow you to have collateral as an artist to continue, and it will give you a great story for your first project." So Right Kind of Lover became Miss Patti LaBelle's first gold record
Wow.
um, in my first writings. Um, and then to be able to be there and to be mentored by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on that first project. And I think the difference with this project anniversary, the years in between, um, I think the experience that I have and um, the age and the maturity of this new project is a result of everything that I've learned um, um, and I've been able to the experience that I've shared in worldly things and being a woman of a certain age, the music being able to work with um, RL and B flat and um, Darius Hill. Um, that young spirit and that sound that they brought, I was very familiar because I listened to all kind of music, very eclectic about music, um, and hearing where RL had come from and how he'd grown, and to be a collective together and collaborate on this project, and to add my experience with this, it was kind of like a young version of working with Jam and Lewis and seeing how they came together and how they brought things together. And it was amazing to watch the journey, in fact, between the two different. This is the project that I've done at this age.
Yeah.
I'll be 70
No, you
uh,
won't.
on the 24th of this month, and then
Mm.
hearing something that I've done 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just so awesome to hear and still hear that music and then listen to this new generation of how they thought to collaborate and put music together. It's very awesome. It feels great.
Wow. First of all, birthday, this is number 70. I think that's amazing because you get more
Thank
beautiful as the years go by. When
thank
you
you
talk
so
about
much.
young spirit and we talk about this album anniversary, let me tell you, when I heard who, I said, "Oh, okay, I'm the one, not the two."
Not the two.
And Safe Space.
Yes,
Oh, and this album just is so amazing. The
thank you.
body, like I said, no skips. But was there one song that you really were like, I like this one? I really like this one.
I I I have to say, the songs that really grasped my heart were definitely um, that first one, "My Man,"
Yeah.
and knowing and being with my husband for 40 years,
Amen.
um, and all the things, even the things that RL had talked about, raising our children and going through life together and working together in the industry. Some people don't want to be around their mate uh, 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard. That was one of my favorites. And him watching and seeing how we lived and being able to convey that in a song. I love that. Who, like you said, is one of my favorites because in relationships, sometimes you have to put a little check and
Yes.
say,
Hello.
hello,
Yes. Hello.
hello.
I was like, okay, who
Yes.
love that song. And I have
Thank
to
you.
add Let's Stay Together.
Let's stay together.
I had a party. Like I've
Oh,
listened, the album just is continuing going on, but Let's Stay
oh,
Together
thank
is
you.
so fun. You did it with Calvin Richardson. You've worked with him before, but
Yeah.
how did this collaboration for this project come together? You brought him for that song.
Listen, um, Let's Stay Together is also one of my favorites. Those are my three favorites, in
Yeah.
fact. And oh well, ain't gotta worry. I love that too. But Calvin Richardson and I, like you said, we collabed before. The first time we came together, I worked on his project when he did the Bobby Womack tribute. And he and I did the song that Bobby Womack and Patti LaBelle did, Love Has Finally Come at Last. And we were nominated for a Grammy for it.
Yeah.
And when we started working on this song, Big Jim Wright, uh, my brother, we were working on a project for me, and he was coming here to Atlanta to put my vocals on the project. We'd finished collaborating and writing, and we were just finishing the finishing touches were my vocals. And when he got ready to come here, that's when we learned that he had passed. So, and he and I were going to do the duet. And when I started working on this project, I said I got to do something to memorialize Big Jim. Since we didn't get to do that, I said, and one of the voices that I know will be fulfilling in that slot is somebody that I already know and trust and feel good and have great chemistry with, Calvin. Called him, and immediately, I said, hey, we've done it once, we can do it again.
Yes. That is a bop. I see myself down
Thank
south
you.
somewhere hanging
Yes,
out with my friends and that let's stay together and we all just get up and start just
yes,
grooving and vibing.
yes.
I
That
love
Friday
that.
night fish fry.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I love that. When you finished this project anniversary, what was the feeling? Who were you with? And what did you feel completing this project?
When we came to the completion of this project, um, my husband, RL, B flat, and I, we were all in the room together. And it was so spiritually, um, the spirit was very thick in that we pray every before we do anything, before we even start working, every session we pray. And those young men were so spiritually inspired and fired up. And when they told me that they were so pleased and so happy to have worked this project and to be able to be around me in the studio working. And they felt like these songs were totally meant for me. And they loved the way that it was delivered. And they didn't know that I was feeling just over the moon with how they had presented and worked with me. So the feeling was so mutual and we were so on one accord. It was just when we finished this project, it was more like a praise session because my husband is always excited and he is always saying, okay, put this on there. Say this. Sing it like your dad would do. Sing it like your mother. You know how your mother would do that.
Right.
So he is always my studio cheerleader and he's always putting in something. He says, see, I told you that would work. And then on I Miss Missing You is one of the songs I love too. And then him at the end of the thing, I miss you too, baby.
Yes.
He's like one hit, one shot. I recorded that on one shot. I said, well, all you had to say is, I miss you too, babe. He said, yeah, but that, that's just one time, one time. All I had to do was one time. But we were all in there and we were locked in together. And it was definitely a praise session, giving honor and thanks to God that He blessed us with something that touched our hearts and something that we were allowed to begin and finish.
Yeah.
Um, feeling favor in the room, and praying that it will go out and touch and bless others to receive it as we thought of it doing.
I love that. It's a masterpiece, a
Thank
masterpiece,
you.
and I love it. My final question to you is I would love to know what are your keys to longevity, just your longevity and balance in your personal life and professional life? Because as you said, you've been doing this more than half of your life.
One, I think longevity is comes, I know, because I know that I have been ordained to do this and that I know that this is my ministry and my calling, to be able um, to share this gift, and not only just to share the gift, but um, as I always say, we're blessed to be a blessing. And I've 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 heard this saying, and I love it so much. I use it a lot. Um, being a poured out picture. I don't want to leave anything. I want to share everything that I have with my fans and my friends, and creating creating spaces where people can dream and live, not only with my gift, but with my finances, um, setting the table for younger artists coming along. That is part of my longevity, to be able to educate um, and share my experiences with others. And one thing that I talk about as well is I had an opportunity to pick the brain of Lou Rawls, who is one of my favorite singers from Chicago as well. And I was flying from somewhere and we met and I sat with him and we were talking. I said, I just want to ask you, because I admired the longevity that he had enjoyed. And I said, what is, like the question you asked me, what is the key to the longevity? How did you stay so relevant and stay in this industry so long? He said, baby, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He said, listen, he said, you have established fans, and what you do is what they like. He said, keep doing what you do. He said, keep it fresh. He said, keep reinventing it, but do what you do and give them what they came to love you for. And don't never negate to give them what they came for in the first place. He said, but give them something new to add on to it every time. So being around those artists and uh, learning from them, um, that, that, but the most important thing is praying and asking God for direction every step of the way, because we know that He creates a path for each and every one of our lives.
Mm.
And when we follow Him, we know we won't go astray because it's a path that He knows. And so when we put Him first, we're able to go where He leads us and directs us And the heart of the king is in God's hands. He controls the tide. So wherever we go, he prepares the heart of those to receive us and to set them in the space to receive us. And what we need is already there when we get there.
Yeah.
So longevity is because God ordains our steps. And when we follow, we can't fail.
Yeah. I needed that. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been so good to talk to you. You've really brightened my day.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for your music, your contribution just to entertainment. And I wanted to acknowledge I loved you on Queen Sugar.
Oh, thank you so
Loved
much.
you.
Thank you. That was one of my favorite series at the time.
Amazing.
And I was telling my husband, I said, "Oh, I love this show. I love this show." I said, "But they need to have like, they got the show and lo and behold, it was a month later.
Right.
They called, and I was only supposed to be on there for one episode, and that's to show up as the nurse to Prosper, the home health nurse. And it turned into 9 episodes because they saw the chemistry and the spark and realized Prosper had not had a love connection throughout the whole series.
That's so amazing. So amazing. I want to thank, and I wanted to acknowledge that I loved you in that. I love your music.
Thank you so
I just want to thank you and know I'm so glad that you stay focused and you know your purpose is so you're touching lives. You've been touching lives for so many years. And I look forward to seeing you on a stage and rocking out with you and just having a good time.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you at Stockbridge when you come to Atlanta.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. My guest today is the one and only, the legend, Ann Nesby. It's the Hybrid Soul with Kelly Kinkaid, your destination for music and culture discovery. See you next time.